This is gonna be a real short video. I just wanted to show y'all something. See my mosquito stickers. If you had told me that this row, yes, that's a row, this right here would produce this right here, I wouldn't have believed you. Had I not been the one, some of these are not as big, but got some good sized onions in there. I would not have believed you. But here it is. Look at this one. My onion harvest. And I pulled some shallots too. I've never grown shallots before. I don't know how they work. So I left a bunch of them in the ground still. But look at this. Look at that. Isn't that crazy? A few more short little updates. We got some cherry tomatoes ripe. Huge green tomatoes. And some bug damage. And some blossom end rot, looks like it down there. But lots of tomatoes. They're taller than me now. I guess I'm just gonna let them go wild once they hit the top of the trellis. Lots and lots of green tomatoes. I picked my first red one a few days ago. It was a Costoluto Genovese, which surprised me. Look at these things. Some more cherry tomatoes ripe. I'm bringing them to lunch with my friends tomorrow, so I'm just gonna leave them on the vine for now because nothing seems to be bothering them so far. Harvested one plant worth of potatoes, and it was probably 2.5, 3 pounds worth, enough for breakfast for two. Potatoes are next on the agenda. Today's just the first day in a handful of days that's been dry enough, and I knew my onions were very close to rotting in the ground. So onions took priority. But yeah, potatoes are next. Made a mistake with these. I separated them by variety, but I didn't look to see which ones were shelling beans and which ones were green beans. I only know of one variety that's actually green beans, but I don't know when any of these are supposed to be ripe. So, got to do some looking on that. The borage is like chest high at this point. Ooh. I don't know that that's a friend. Maybe. Been coming out and pulling Japanese beetles off of this particular variety. They like the Kentucky Wonder Beans. I'm about to go get my bucket, and I will knock them into a bucket of water and then go give them to my chickens. The chickens love them. And we've been getting, well, where are they at? I just picked one earlier this morning. There we go. Starting to get cucumbers. Perfect size for making pickles. Hey, Nacho. But yeah, time to go get the murder bucket. It's a daily task at this point. There's another blushing tomato. I could go ahead and pull that one if I wanted to. I'll wait another day at least. And some more cherries. Those are yellow cherries. Got melons. Doing good. Probably going to start climbing soon. Lavender's doing great. Unfortunately, nothing productive in this row. But look at all the green tomatoes. Got lots of herbs over here. Doing wonderful. I need to come through and harvest these. chamomile. First successful time growing chamomile at our old house. The squirrels kept coming and digging it up for some reason. Oh, it smells so good. Somebody said it smells like green apples. I concur. I concur. The peas finally started blooming, you know, after it's too hot for them and they're dying. But I've been pulling off some little green peas for snacking when I'm out here in the garden. It's nice. The squash starting to climb over here. Once we finish with the onions and potatoes, we're gonna knock out that row. Come through with a weed eater, come through and probably hoe everything, and plant bush beans and watermelons and things like that. But just look at how productive this is being over here. Look at that. So exciting. They're on the outside a little more than they have been before. I might just send my dad a picture in just a second. But he said them being all across the front means that they're running out of space on the inside. And he's going to bring us a super soon to put on top so they can start storing their honey up top. But hopefully this is not the start of a swarm. They're looking great though. They're apparently doing great, being very productive in there. Also, the chickens have learned to come when I walk up to the fence, because I usually give them goodies. Right now they're picking at some lamb's quarter that I tossed in there when I was pulling the onions. Still picking on poor Pee-wee over there. We had one fly out the other day and it was stuck in the fence trying to get back in. Apparently their feathers are thick enough that it doesn't affect them, like the electric fence. This whole netting is electric. Apparently it doesn't affect them, but it had its head stuck down here somewhere and I had to turn the fence off and get her out. She went right back to eating as soon as I tossed her in there. But I think it's time to start clipping some wings. Another thing about these beans, I didn't get all of them. When you start to knock them off, it kind of causes an avalanche and they all just fall off and get lost. But I've heard, you'll notice that this is the variety that has looked sick for most of the time it's been growing. So I have heard that pests will go after sicker plants. This variety alone, out of all the other ones, has been sick, and it is the one that has stayed covered in Japanese beetles. Conveniently, they've stayed along the top, so it's really easy to come through and knock them off. But that is a good tip, is if you have a sick plant and you know it's not a type of sickness that can like spread to the other plants, it might be good to just leave it, because the pest pressure will focus on that one plant and leave all the other ones alone. People call, well, there are certain varieties of plants and types of plants that are like a trap crop, that attract pests before the actual plants that you're growing do. So a lot of people will plant stuff for that purpose as well. I've noticed, I don't see any around here, but they have also been going after the pigweed that has come up in my garden over other plants that they would normally focus on. This guy, however, is not a pest. He is a friend. And so is this one. Hey, Nacho. Everybody else is wary at first, but look at him. Here they are all laid out. I've got all the tops pointing down to dry. And all these were either too small or the tops were completely dead and they need to be used pretty much right away. I'll come down and cut the tops off of them and cut the roots off and kind of make them a little more presentable, and I'll keep them in a bin upstairs to use. But yeah, there's the onion harvest.